The prison yard had its own rules. They weren't written anywhere. They weren't explained to newcomers. But everyone learned them quickly. Strength mattered. Reputation mattered more. And silence, real silence, meant something was about to happen. When Muhammad Ali stepped into the yard that afternoon, conversations dipped just slightly. Not enough to draw attention. Enough to mark awareness. Ali didn't belong there. That wasn't arrogance. It was context. Ali wasn't an inmate. He wasn't visiting for spectacle. He was there as part of an outreach program. One of those carefully supervised appearances meant to look simple on paper and complicated in reality. Prisons don't bend easily around fame. They test it. Ali walked slowly, hands loose, posture upright. He didn't scan the yard nervously. He didn't act like a guest either. He moved like a man who understood space. The guards stayed close, but not too close. They trusted Ali's composure. They also trusted the yard. That would be tested. The 5 men had been watching him since he stepped outside. Not openly. Casually. They stood apart at first. Spread out. Each pretending to be occupied with something else. But their attention was coordinated in the way only experienced men manage. They weren't kids. They weren't impulsive. They were calculating. Someone in the yard muttered Ali's name. Someone else laughed quietly. Ali heard it. He didn't react. The yard was a wide rectangle of cracked concrete and worn grass patches. Chain-link fences hummed faintly in the breeze. Beyond them, guard towers stood indifferent, unmoved by whatever unfolded below. Ali walked toward the center area. That's where things happened. The first man drifted closer. Not directly. Sideways. The second mirrored him from the opposite angle. The third slowed behind Ali's path. The fourth and fifth closed the arc. Ali felt it before he saw it. The way movement stops feeling random. The way air tightens. He stopped walking. Not abruptly. Deliberately. That's when everyone else noticed. The 5 men formed a loose circle around Ali. Not touching. Not crowding. Just close enough to erase casual exits. The yard went quiet. Not the loud kind of quiet. The kind that listens. One of the men spoke. He said Ali was brave coming there. The word brave carried weight. Ali turned slowly, acknowledging the speaker. He smiled faintly. Ali said he believed in going where he was invited. The man chuckled. Another man snorted. A third asked Ali if he felt safe. Ali considered the question. He said safety depended on respect. That answer drew murmurs. One of the men stepped closer. Just a half step. He said respect had to be earned in places like this. Ali nodded. He said that was true everywhere. The man tilted his head. He said Ali had earned respect in the ring. But this wasn't a ring. Ali agreed. He said the ring had rules. Life had choices. The men exchanged looks. This wasn't going how they'd planned. They hadn't expected Ali to be calm. They hadn't expected conversation. They'd expected either fear or bravado. Ali gave them neither. One of the men circled slowly, scraping his shoe against the ground. He asked Ali if he thought he was untouchable. Ali answered honestly. He said no one was untouchable, but everyone was accountable. That word landed heavy. Another man laughed. He said accountability didn't mean much inside fences. Ali met his eyes. He said accountability always meant something. Sometimes later. Sometimes quietly. But always. The guards watched from a distance now. Hands near radios. Not intervening yet. They understood something. This wasn't violent. Yet. One of the men leaned in slightly. Close enough to be threatening. He said Ali talked like a preacher. Ali smiled. He said sometimes people confuse calm for sermon. The man bristled. He asked Ali what he'd do if one of them decided to test him. Ali didn't answer immediately. He looked around the circle. 5 men. Different ages. Different scars. Same curiosity. Ali said something softly that made a few heads turn. He said, I wouldn't fight 5 men. That drew laughter. Short. Sharp. Ali raised a finger gently. He said he wouldn't fight 5 men. Because fighting wasn't the point. The laughter died off. Ali continued. He said men fight when they want to prove something. He said he was there to understand something. One of the men asked what that was. Ali said he wanted to understand why strong men still felt the need to surround someone smaller. That insult was subtle, but it landed. The biggest man in the group clenched his jaw. He said Ali was calling them weak. Ali shook his head. He said no. He said he was calling the moment weak. That froze them. Ali said strength didn't need numbers. Numbers were insurance. The men shifted, not backing away, recalculating. One of them finally said what everyone was thinking. He said Ali was talking too much for someone surrounded. Ali nodded. He said being surrounded didn't always mean being trapped. The man scoffed. He asked what else it could mean. Ollie said it could mean being seen. That answer rippled through the yard. People were paying attention now. Not just guards. Inmates. Ollie straightened slightly. Not posturing. Presenting. Ollie said something that changed the temperature completely. He said, "Every man here is already known for what he's done." He paused. He said, "The question is what you want to be known for next." No one spoke. The 5 men hadn't expected that. They hadn't expected Ollie to put the future on the table. One of them asked Ollie what he'd be known for. Ollie answered without hesitation. He said he'd be known for standing where he didn't have to, for speaking when silence was safer. He said fear had followed him everywhere. He said he never let it decide who he was. The men looked at each other. This wasn't a challenge anymore. It was a test. One of them finally asked Ollie why he wasn't afraid. Ollie answered honestly. He said fear exists whether you show it or not. The only choice is whether it controls you. The yard was completely silent now. No footsteps. No laughter. Ollie said something final in a voice that carried just far enough. He said, "If any of you want to hurt me, you can try." Guard stiffened. Ollie raised his hand slightly. Not surrender. Clarification. He said, "But know this, whatever you do today will follow you longer than it follows me." That did it. One of the men stepped back. Just a step. Another followed. Not retreat. Release. The circle loosened. Air rushed back in. Ollie didn't move. He didn't chase the moment. He stood exactly where he was. The 5 men looked at him one last time. Not angry. Not impressed. Thoughtful. Then one of them nodded. Not submission. Acknowledgement. They turned and walked away. Not together. Separately. The yard noise returned slowly, like a volume knob being turned back up. Guards exhaled. Inmates resumed their routines. Ollie stood there for a moment longer, then continued walking. But the yard wasn't the same anymore. Because something had happened that didn't involve punches. Didn't involve shouting. Something rarer. 5 men had tested Muhammad Ali and walked away with more questions than answers. But the story wasn't finished. Because what happened after, how the men spoke about that moment, how the yard remembered it, and why the incident became legend, would only reveal itself with time. The yard didn't snap back to normal right away. It never does after something real happens. People pretended to resume their routines. Laps around the perimeter, quiet conversations near the benches, weights clanking in the corner, but the rhythm was off. Too many glances. Too much restraint. Everyone had seen the circle form. Everyone had seen it dissolve. The 5 men didn't regroup. That was the first thing people noticed. They didn't slap hands or laugh it off. They didn't posture to recover pride. Each of them moved in a different direction, alone with his thoughts. That mattered. In places like this, separation means reflection. One of the men sat on a low concrete ledge near the fence, elbows on knees, staring at nothing. Another paced slowly, jaw tight, replaying the moment in his head. The biggest of them leaned against the wall, arms crossed, breathing heavier than he should have been. None of them had touched Ollie, yet all of them felt touched by the moment. The guards relaxed incrementally, hands drifting away from radios. They didn't announce anything. They didn't need to. They understood when a situation had resolved itself. Ollie continued walking the yard with his escort, stopping occasionally to greet inmates who approached respectfully. He listened. He nodded. He didn't reference what had happened. That restraint amplified it. By the time Ollie was led back toward the exit, the story was already forming. Not exaggerated. Condensed. 5 guys tried to test him. He didn't flinch. He talked them out of it. He didn't talk them down, he talked them through. Stories inside walls travel differently. They aren't told for entertainment. They're told as warnings. As lessons. That evening, after count, the yard buzzed quietly with versions of what had happened. Men who hadn't been there listened closely. Men who had been there corrected details. Nobody claimed Ollie threatened anyone. Nobody said he bragged. They all agreed on the same thing. He didn't act like a visitor. He acted like a man who belonged to himself. One of the 5 finally spoke about it aloud that night. He didn't tell the story to impress. He told it because he needed to say it out loud. He said Ollie never once tried to dominate them. He said Ollie never once mentioned his fists. He said Ollie looked at them like they mattered. That bothered him more than fear ever could. Another man added something quietly. He said Ollie didn't shrink the moment. He expanded it. He made them think about tomorrow instead of 5 minutes from now. That comment ended the conversation. Days passed. Ali's visit became part of the facility's oral history. Not official, unwritten. New inmates heard about it weeks later. Not as a celebrity story, as a yard story. You don't surround a man like that. Why? Because he won't give you what you're looking for. The 5 men were never labeled weak. That would have missed the point. They were labeled checked. One of them began attending the educational sessions Ali had originally come to support. Not publicly, quietly, sitting near the back, listening. Another started mentoring younger inmates, warning them away from pointless dominance games. The biggest one, who'd stood closest to Ali, stopped leading with intimidation entirely. People noticed. Not immediately, but steadily. None of them credited Ali publicly. They didn't need to. The shift spoke for itself. Years later, one of the guards would say that day changed how he thought about control. He said force always feels like the fastest solution, but it rarely lasts. Ali, when asked much later about visits like that, answered carefully. He said prisons reveal people at their most concentrated. He said fear doesn't disappear behind bars, it multiplies. And he said respect, when offered honestly, travels faster than intimidation ever could. Someone once asked Ali whether he'd been scared that day. Ali smiled faintly. He said fear shows up whenever you walk into unknown territory. Courage is deciding not to let it speak first. The legend grew quietly. It wasn't dramatized. No punches were added. No heroic exaggerations. That's why it endured. Because the truth was enough. 5 men surrounded Muhammad Ali in a prison yard. Everyone expected posturing, expected violence, expected chaos. What they got instead was perspective. Ali didn't defeat them. He didn't embarrass them. He didn't even claim victory. He reframed the moment. He showed them that strength without purpose collapses under its own weight. That numbers don't equal authority. That silence, when chosen deliberately, can command an entire space. That yard remembered it. Not as fear, as balance. Years later, long after Ali stopped visiting places like that, inmates would still mention him. Not as knockouts. Not as bravado. But that day, they'd say, Ali stood in the middle of the yard, and nobody moved him. Not because he couldn't be moved. Because no one wanted to be the man who tried. That's how legends actually form. Not from domination, but from moments where everyone involved walks away changed. Ali left that prison the same way he entered it. Unarmed, unescorted by ego, uninterested in conquest. But behind him, something permanent remained. A reminder that the strongest response isn't always resistance. Sometimes it's reflection. 5 men surrounded Muhammad Ali in a prison yard. What happened next became legend. Not because of what Ali did with his fists, but because of what he refused to do with them. And in a place where every move is measured, remembered, and judged, that refusal spoke louder than any punch ever could.